Heideggerian Meditations. Heidegger proposes a thesis about what technology, what technics is. In technology, in techniques, and thus in and through the world, something is realized, realizing itself, that, according to Heidegger, itself is nothing technological. Before Heidegger is going back to the ancient Greek split in the notion of techne, he traces this split back to the notion. There's a certain surplus of or to the question about and after being, according to Heidegger, what Heidegger calls, in quotation marks, the question about the meaning of being. According to Heidegger, this is not to be taken as an abstract epistemological question that provides us or can ever provide us with some kind or form of knowledge, as if one could answer the question of being in a thing-like way, conceptualize or even compute it. Therefore, Heidegger further develops an analysis, refines and adapts a method that looks at phenomena as we encounter them, so the way we encounter them in the how. These phenomena are what surround us, what we find, and what we deal with on a daily basis in terms of our, in quotation marks, being in the world. These phenomena are, according to Heidegger in parenthesis, also, in quotation marks, there. Heidegger tries to explain what the notion being actually means, what the actuality of this notion consists in, as an actual referential trait of event of happenstance and occurrence of, in quotation marks, our Dasein. It's an attempt to release oneself from certain explanative interpretative takes, just as the way seems spared today against certain other possibilities of world interpretation that are not technoscientifical. Any other way of world encounter indeed seems barred for the waiting place, a lingering and dwelling lookout of the, in quotation marks, there. Heidegger does this by not simply making up or inventing a private language. Rather, his attempt is to be conceived of as an attempt to taking up a trait of ancient Greek language and to listen and speak from everyday vernacular, to revive it, to bring forth into revival what goes about in silence, unquestioned, unheard, unthought, in the beginning of Greek thinking, to re-evoke the ever-reoccurring but disguised original scene of thought. The possibility for betoken, for taking it cared, is offered to us first of all by the openness, Offenbarkeit of a world. Therefore to begin at phenomena is the credo. To question them as to what they are as phenomena. This first breaks loose the involvement of this thing in relation to other things and in relation to the there being of the meeting place of the phenomenal appearing, the site of phenomenal appearing as such. The phenomenological approach means to study drawn span, extended span events that are not one-sided relational, but rather they invoke reciprocal bewildered relatednesses. Not in the sense of tethering, but rather a coming to pass, a bearing reference, bearing relation that drain and span with. How about the existential orientation in which Dasein finds itself? Does it commence the possibility of the arrival of question, and does it decide if we can set ourselves out to what they lead to that sphere which indicates the surplus, what this stretching out of, in quotation marks, Dasein as presence of all of us in the world is right now beyond the everyday banal life? In quotation marks, what is being? What can we know? What if being is not a question of knowledge? Radio set or the TV as self-contained objects are facing and confronting us as finished for their purpose, that distance is not actual nearness or farness. Perhaps it's not a question of measure, something that is short or far from me. There can be no distance that is near or far according to the measurability or calculability, far from being objectifiable. It is about a quest of exposure in relation to us, a interrelational referential echoing. In quotation marks, what is distance-wise in the smallest distance to us by the picture in the film, by the sound in the radio can remain far from us? What is distance-wise unmistakably far away can be near to us. Small distance is not already proximity, nearness. Great distance is not yet farness. Quote, what is proximity if despite the reduction of the longest distance to the shortest distance, it remains absent? What is proximity when it is even repelled by the restless elimination of distances? What is the nearness if its absence on the distance remains away? Quote, what is going on by eliminating the great distances? Everything stands equally distant and equally near. What is this uniformity in which everything is neither far nor near, as it were without distance? Everything is washed together into the uniformly spaceless. How? Isn't the moving together into the spaceless even more sinister than a bursting apart of everything? Quote, what else is this restless sphere waiting for when the horrific has already happened? The horrific is that which puts everything that is out of its former essence. What is this horror? It shows and hides itself in the way in which everything is, namely, that despite all overcoming of the distances, the nearness of that which is remains absent. Quote, what about the proximity? How can we experience its essence, its abiding? Proximity, it seems, cannot be found directly. This succeeds rather in such a way that we pursue what is in the proximity. In the proximity is such what we are used to call the things. But what is a thing? Man has hitherto considered the thing as a thing as little as proximity. Quote, an independent thing can become an object when we place it before us, whether in immediate perception or in recollective visualization. The thinghood of the thing, however, is based neither on the fact that it is an imagined object, nor can it be determined at all from the objecthood of the object. Quote, the jar remains a vessel, whether we imagine it, in parenthesis, make it a thing of thought, a thing of contemplation, i.e. an object, or not.